सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
The phone rang at the State Department soon after American cruise missiles slammed into jihadist training camps in southern Afghanistan. The cleric who ruled the Islamic Emirate was on the line from Kandahar. Mullah Muhammad Omar, a declassified document records, had no specific message, but he did have a little advice. To rebuild United States' popularity in the Islamic world, and because of his current domestic political difficulties, Congress should force President Bill Clinton to resign. 48 hours earlier, on August 20th, 1998, death squads dispatched by the Al-Qaeda chief Osama bin Laden had bombed United States embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing 241 people. Mullah Omar politely declined in that phone call to hand him over. The 70-odd cruise missiles used in the strikes, each costing upwards of $1 million, had killed just 6 jihadists, according to the memoirs of bin Laden's bodyguard, Nasser al-Bahri. For the Islamic Emirate, this blood was small change. The one-eyed cleric who led Afghanistan never bothered calling again. Last month's killing of bin Laden's successor, Ayman al-Zawahiri, at his safe house in Kabul illustrates a deeper truth. Under the Taliban regime, United Nations sanctions monitors warned earlier this summer, Al-Qaeda enjoys greater freedom in Afghanistan. The group isn't mounting external operations like the embassy bombings or 9/11. It's instead using its Taliban-provided safe haven to rebuild, and it enjoys freedom of movement and access to resources. For years, Western advocates of peace with the Taliban insisted the organization was willing to sever its links to transnational terrorism and to reinvent itself as a force for peace. Islamic Emirate Interior Minister Sirajuddin Haqqani, who is believed to have provided al-Zawahiri the home he was living in, even debuted as a New York Times columnist. Things haven't gone that way, in part because of deep ties between Al-Qaeda and the so-called Haqqani network, made up in the main of leaders from eastern Afghanistan's Zadran clans. But the relationship between Al-Qaeda and the Taliban is deeper than just one faction. The durability of the relationship raises important questions about the Taliban's ideological goals and if they will ever give up their pursuit of transnational jihad. From 1920 on, Afghanistan's modernizing king Amanullah Khan set in motion the forces that forged the Taliban. The king ordered an end to the seclusion of women and founded co-educational schools. In an effort to build a united national army, he ended exemptions the southeastern Pashtun tribes had enjoyed from military conscription. The king's reforms ended up enraging both tribal elites and the clerical class. Twice, in 1924 and in 1928, the Zadran, from which the Haqqanis are drawn, revolted against the king. Further crisis erupted to the south, historian Sana Haroon has recorded, as ethnic Pashtun joined in cleric-led insurrections against British imperial power in North Waziristan. King Nadir Shah, Amanullah's successor, had to roll back his efforts at reform and state building. Khwaja Muhammad Khan, the founding patriarch of the Haqqani family, represented the pious trading class empowered by this failure of Afghan state building. Khan used part of the small fortune he had made from trading with British India to educate his 4 sons at the Darul Uloom Haqqaniya, which was founded in 1947. The seminary, under the leadership of the Islamist politician Samiul Haq, emerged as the intellectual heart of the Islamist movement in Pakistan. Its students, Fazlul Rahman, Muhammad Yunus Khalis, Mullah Omar himself, went on to command powerful jihadist formations. The founder of Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, Uttar Pradesh-born Sanaul Haq, was a student, and so a generation before him was Khwaja Muhammad Khan's son, Jalaluddin Haqqani. Late in 1957, Socialist Prime Minister Muhammad Dawood Khan ignited the conflict with the southeastern tribes over women's education Again, Jalaluddin would rise to prominence as a key figure in the renewed jihad against the reforms. Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Directorate played a key role in bringing about Jalaluddin's rise. Former Pakistan Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the scholar C. Christine Fair has recorded, used Islamist groups to undermine the Dawood regime. Frontier Corps Brigadier Nasirullah Babar, who later became Defence Minister of Pakistan, set up military facilities that trained an estimated 5,000 jihad volunteers to take on the Afghanistan state. From 1979, when Soviet forces crossed the Amu Darya into Afghanistan, a small flow of Arab volunteers also travelled to Pakistan, joining the Darul Uloom Haqqaniya graduates who were leading the new jihad. The most influential of these would be Abdullah Azam, who as teacher at the International Islamic University in Islamabad would help Hafiz Muhammad Saeed found the Lashkar-e-Taiba and mentor the young Bin Laden. Fighting on the front lines, Azam became an icon for a generation of jihadists. Azam's 1987 book, Defense of the Muslim Lands, is considered among the seminal texts of the modern jihadist movement. In particular, its assertion that fighting is obligatory on every individual Muslim, a proposition he made with the support of the chief cleric of Saudi Arabia, Abdullah bin Baz. This idea, however, had already been promoted by the Darul Uloom jihadists for years. If the Islamic world truly wants to support and help us, Jalaluddin Haqqani had said in 1980, it should permit its young men to join our ranks. There is a tendency in most of the Islamic countries which wish to help us to present aid and food as a kind of jihad. Some even think this is the best kind of jihad. This, however, does not absolve the Muslim of the duty to offer himself for the jihad. Wahid Brown and Don Razzler have noted that this declaration was, I quote, made years before Abdullah Azam would issue his revolutionary fatwa. 5 years before Azam would establish the kernel of Al-Qaeda, its to-be leaders were already fighting at Haqqani bases at Zawar in Afghanistan. The Egyptian jihadist Mustafa Hamid arrived in 1979, soon to be followed by the Lashkar-e-Taiba's Zakiur Rahman Lakhvi and Harkatul Mujahideen's Fazlur Rahman Khalil. Thousands more came from Europe, Central Asia and Kashmir. Jihad continues to be a sacred duty until the infidels are defeated throughout the world, Jalaluddin declared in 1991. God will not bless us for our past jihad. Even though the Haqqanis maintained an intimate relationship with Al-Qaeda, the jihadist group also enjoyed close ties with the Kandahar-based leaders of the group. In 2015, for example, United States forces bombed the largest Al-Qaeda camp ever detected, which was operating in the mountains near Kandahar. In 2014, Mullah Omar accepted a formal pledge of allegiance from al-Zawahiri, affirming that Al-Qaeda and its branches in all locales are soldiers in his army acting under his victorious banner. Mullah Akhtar Muhammad Mansoor, who succeeded Mullah Omar, publicly accepted a pledge of allegiance from Al-Qaeda, which the Taliban never repudiated even though they removed it from their website. The Taliban's policy is to avoid being seen with us or revealing any cooperation or agreement between us and them, the Libyan jihadist Atiyat Abdur Rahman wrote in 2011. That is for the purpose of averting international pressure and out of consideration for regional dynamics. We defer to them in this regard. Even though the eastern and southern factions of the Taliban are engaged in a sometimes brutal struggle for influence and for power, with Sirajuddin competing with Taliban Emir Mullah Muhammad Haibatullah and Mullah Yaqub Omar, neither side has shown any willingness to compromise its larger relationship with Al-Qaeda. From the outset, some pragmatists within the Taliban have been willing to sacrifice global jihad in their own interests for regional recognition and for state building. They've had little influence over the organization though. For the Taliban, you see, jihad isn't a means, it is the end. I'm Praveen Swami and I'm National Security Editor of ThePrint.